So hello and welcome to the Master of Studies in English Language Assessment 2024-26 information session. Before we get going on the content, a brief reminder that this session is being recorded. After the session, recording will be sent to everybody who's registered for today's event, and we'll also be sharing it via the ICE YouTube channel. My name is Jonathan Lippman. I'm part of the Professional Studies team at the Institute of Continuing Education at the University of Cambridge, also known as ICE. So we'll just start with a brief overview of today's session. So we're delighted to have a number of panelists at this session. Dr. Calvert Graham, who's the interim course director for this MST, Professor Brescia Post, who works for the department at the university, and Dr. Amy Devine from Cambridge University Press and Assessment. There are academic representatives, and you'll be hearing from all of them shortly. We have one of our former students, Hanger Kim, who has just successfully completed the MST as part of the first cohort, myself and Mark from the admin team. So we're very pleased to have you here with us today. Shortly, we'll take you through what you can expect from the MST in English Language Assessment, and that will cover the course content, assessment, suggestion of time commitment that you might need to put aside to study, and also how to apply. We'll also take you through what kind of support we can provide during the application process. And we've time set aside at the end of the session to answer any questions you might have. So please do feel free to type your questions as we're going through the session using the Q&A function. And one of the team will try and answer your question as we're going along, or we might save your question to answer live at the end. So just very brief, a little bit about ICE. So we were established just over 150 years ago in 1873. We've just celebrated our 150th anniversary, and we were the first university-led continuing education provider in the world. Today, we offer a wide range of courses to predominantly adult learners, and this includes short online and residential weekend courses, international summer programs, and award-bearing part-time undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications. And this covers a number of subject areas, everything from archaeology to writing for performance. We also act as the admitting body for all Master of Studies courses within the University of Cambridge. ICE, in effect, is a place where professional networks are formed, friendships are made, and the transformative power of learning is recognized. So Cambridge itself is made up of 31 independent colleges, and each has its own special character. Our partner colleges on this specific course are Fitzwilliam and Homerton. Once you've accepted an offer to study in the course, you will in effect become a member of one of these two colleges. And this will grant you the same level of support as any full-time university student. As well as having access to standard college resources, you'll also be allocated a college tutor. And this is somebody who is responsible for your welfare, pastoral support, and also the college arranges things such as your university card, invites you to matriculation and graduation events. Note that it isn't normally possible to become a member of one of the other 29 Cambridge colleges unless you have a pre-existing affiliation with them. If you want to find out more, you can watch an informative video of Meet the Colleges, which was a panel discussion held a few months ago, and you can find the link to that on our website. So in terms of this course, the MST in English Language Assessment is tripartite, delivered jointly by Cambridge Language Sciences and Cambridge University Press and Assessment. And therefore, it offers a unique combination of cross-disciplinary expertise. It's administered by ICE, part of the University of Cambridge, and this course leads to a master's qualification from the University of Cambridge. So I'll hand over now to Dr. Calvert Graham, who is the interim course director, and he's just going to tell you a little bit about himself.
Hi everyone, I'm Calvert, and as you can see in the slide here, I'm the Interim Course Director. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this session. So I'm a researcher in the Linguistics Department, and my background is in second language acquisition, phonetics, or the science of speech, and computational linguistics. And my work in English language assessment has been mainly in the area of automated proficiency assessment, particularly pronunciation assessment. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dr. James Underwood, who is the new course director, couldn't join us today, but students who study on this course will be meeting him as well. I'll hand over now to Professor Brechtje Post, and she's going to talk through a little bit about Cambridge Language Sciences. Over to you, Brechtje.
Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to be able to speak to all of you today. So I'm Professor of Phonetics and Phonology in the same department that Calvert is in, actually, in linguistics. But the reason why I'm involved with the course is primarily because I'm also one of the directors of the Cambridge Language Sciences Interdisciplinary Research Centre. And as the name of the centre implies, what we try to do is to bring together all of the researchers that are in Cambridge across all of its 6 academic schools together so that we can facilitate interdisciplinary work that focuses on language in one way or another. And one of our initiatives is to do to help especially graduate level, postgraduate level study and support, but also support of research that is done by postgraduates. And the MSc was therefore one of the initiatives that we have developed in order to facilitate collaboration. And in this particular case, of course, the collaboration with Cambridge University Press and Assessment is a key part of it. So I will hand over to Amy in a minute. She will tell you a little bit more about that. But to explain a little bit more about what the role of the language sciences is in this, is that we've brought together a whole team of people who both research and teach within the university from a very wide background, including, for instance, engineering, but also computer science, and of course in linguistics, as well as our very important partner, of course, in the assessment group of CUPNA to deliver this course. And it's directly based on the research that we do together. So an example of this is the ALTA project, that stands for the Cambridge Institute for Automated Language Teaching and Assessment, which is a virtual institute that brings together researchers from Cambridge University Press and Assessment, as well as those departments, computer science and technology and engineering that I mentioned earlier. And they, as the centre, develop cutting-edge approaches to, amongst other things, automated assessment. And you will see that members of their team will be teaching you on the MST course, for instance, in the technology module. So now I do hand over to Amy, so she can tell you more about Cambridge University Press and Assessment.
Thank you, Brechtje. Hi, everyone. So I'm Amy Devine. I'm a senior researcher at Cambridge University Press and Assessment, and I am joint program director for the course from Cambridge University Press and Assessment side of things, and I share this role with a couple of other colleagues. But I also participate in teaching and supervision on the course. So Cambridge University Press and Assessment is a part of the University of Cambridge, and it is a world leader in assessment, education, research, and academic publishing. I work within a part of the organisation that develops English language learning materials and language assessments for learners and teachers worldwide. In a typical year, we deliver more than 7 million exams and tests for teachers and learners of English in over 135 countries. Those exams, some of which you may already be familiar with, cover all ages and different learning paths, for example, exams for school-aged learners, or those for general and higher education purposes, or those used in business contexts. And as such, the organisation has experience that has been gathered over 100 years in the fields of language learning and assessment. And all of this is firmly based on research. So our staff teaching on the MST are primarily researchers and have backgrounds in applied linguistics, English language teaching, psychology, statistics, technology, and machine learning. And this broad range of expertise feeds into the teaching of the 3 assessment-focused modules on the course. So Module 3, the Principles of Assessment, which has a focus on effective assessment practice and how to implement it in different contexts, but also Module 4 that Breccia mentioned earlier on the use of technology and language learning and assessment, which we co-teach with colleagues from the Alta Institute that Breccia also mentioned. Of course, that module focuses on the applications of technology and language learning and assessment. And then Module 6, which is the critical view of language assessment tools, focusing on the practical aspects of developing English language tests. However, people from our team also contribute to the teaching of some of the other modules as well. For example, the lectures on statistics for language assessment, which features within the research methods module. But I'll now hand over to Calbert to talk in more detail about the course content.
Thank you very much, Amy. So as Amy just said, there are 6 main modules to the MST, and I'll talk you through each of these very, very quickly. So the first one is Understanding Speech and Language. And through this module, students will gain a comprehensive understanding of different aspects of language and naturalistic language acquisition. Key areas include phonetics, which, as I said, is the science of speech, monolingual first language acquisition, theories of language acquisition, bilingualism, and multilingualism as well. The second module is language learning in instructed contexts. And through this module, students will reflect on processes and outcomes in second language learning. So here we cover areas such as theories in second language acquisition, the role of the native language, learners' individual differences, and so on. The third module is Principles of Assessment, and the aim here is for students to understand how to engage in effective assessment practice and to implement it in their particular context. So we do try to tailor it to the individual context of students as well. And key areas include various models and frameworks of language assessment, as well as legal and regulatory and ethical considerations. These will all be presented on this module. The fourth one is the use of technology in language and learning and assessment. So students will learn how technology contributes to language learning and assessment. And key areas will include computer-assisted language testing, computer adaptive testing, automated writing and automated speaking, and many other exciting areas as well. The fifth one is research methods and statistical analysis. Here, students acquire advanced research skills to be able to produce high quality papers. And of course, you'll produce a dissertation at the end. So this will also help you to prepare for your dissertation as well. And this could be in linguistics or language assessment. So we'll cover here courses such as research method practice, academic writing and presentation skills, quantitative and qualitative methods, as well, of course, as statistics. And the last one is critical view of assessment tools. And here, students are taught to critically evaluate methods and tools in English language assessment and design new assessment methodologies. We also try to get you to create new methodologies and approaches as well. Next slide, please. So with respect to the teaching and assessment, you can see the details on the slide here, but the key point is that we have a blended learning approach with both online and teaching from experts across a broad range of disciplines. So face-to-face teaching is carried out during the 2-week residential sessions in Cambridge, and you can see the dates provided on the slide here. Right, next slide, please. So in terms of the time commitment, so this is obviously a part-time course which is designed to be suitable for busy working professionals. So on average, we suggests as a guideline that you'll want to set aside 6 to 8 hours roughly to include taught sessions, engagement with core content, reading around topics, preparing for assignments, and so on. This is obviously just a guide, and the exact amount of time will depend on the course deadlines, your personal interests, and your wish to explore the topics. Okay, next slide, please. So finally, the focus of this course really is on you, the students. So on being admitted to the MST in English Language Assessment, you and your fellow students are the primary resource. You'll each bring your own knowledge and expertise and collectively contribute to the enriching learning environment here. You'll also collaborate with professionals working on the frontier of language assessment, which will allow you to gain practical insights and contribute to advancements in methodology. So one of the key things here is that you'll work with professionals both in the linguistics department as well as in Cambridge University Press and Assessment as well. You'll also gain insights from people across the world, benefiting from diverse cultural perspectives and enriching your understanding of language assessment in various contexts. This certainly will allow you to diversify your professional network and connect with professionals and peers globally, expanding your broad career opportunities. You'll also collaborate with peers and faculty to harness collective knowledge. You'll obviously be working on your projects as well with faculty. This will, of course, help you to foster an intellectually stimulating environment for innovative approaches to language assessment. And finally, on successful completion of the course at a high grade, students may wish to progress to a PhD and certainly you may wish to do so at the University of Cambridge. That's quite possible and certainly other universities as well. Obviously, it depends on you. So this is really a fascinating course. I can only encourage you to apply and we certainly hope to welcome you to Cambridge. Thank you. So I'll now hand over to Hannah Kim, who is a student on the MST. She was among our first cohort and she'll tell you about her experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Kim, a former student of this master's program. A brief introduction about myself. I teach English to international students in Australia and work as a lead marker and an item writer working for the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority here in Australia. I started my postgraduate study through this Cambridge ICE, first majoring educational assessment, and then I joined this MST English Language Assessment program. The major reason that I joined the program was because of its nature of being blended learning, which means that I can study while working so that I can reflect on my study in my own working context. So I used what I've learned in my real world working context where I validate language assessment and do standard settings in markings and so on. Another reason that I joined this program was because of the fact that you can learn from linguistics department, education department, and even from Cambridge assessment, which equips you with practical skills. I've just completed my dissertation last December, and in retrospect, it wasn't an easy journey, but I'm glad I did it. So I'm sure you can learn a lot from this course, whether from residential or online lectures, and even from your self-study through reading and reflection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we might come back to you in a moment with some further questions from people on the call. So just to say a little bit now about funding and support. If you do decide to go ahead and submit an application, there is a £50 application fee. On the screen there, you can see some possible ways you might be able to get funding support. Just to clarify that we don't currently have any bursaries or scholarships, however, for this particular course. And the ICE enrollment team, they're always very happy to guide and provide advice on the process of applying. You can scan the QR code that's on the screen now, or you can drop an email to inquiries at ice.cam.ac.uk. And then in terms of the actual application process, So really, I guess to summarize, what we're looking for in the application is sort of evidence that you're why you're interested in English language assessment. As part of the process, you'll need to submit a writing sample of around about 2,000 to 5,000 words. What we're looking for in the sample is basically your ability to write for a professional or an academic or a public audience. It can be on any topic that you want. Obviously, if you can choose a topic that's related to English language assessment or linguistics, that's particularly to be encouraged. You'll also need to submit a personal statement, and that's where we're really looking to understand, what is it that interests you in this subject? What's your motivation for taking this course? Why do you want to do a part-time course? The deadline to apply is Tuesday, the 30th of April. We won't be reviewing any applications until after the deadline has passed. And then the academic team will review all the applications that have been submitted. And for those people that are invited to an interview, we're aiming to do those interviews around about mid to late May. They'll be held on Zoom, so you don't need to worry about coming to Cambridge. And obviously, it's an opportunity for us to find out a little bit more about you and your motivation, but equally, it's an opportunity for you to ask us any questions you might have and to find out if this course, really is the right course for you. If you're successful with your application and you're offered a place, you should hear from us by June, July. Just be aware, please, that any offer is subject to a number of conditions, and one of those conditions might be demonstrating language requirement. If you want to find out more, you can have a look at our website for details. Once the conditions have been met and you've got your place on the course, we would be looking forward to welcoming you to the 24-26 cohort, and that's due to start in October 2024, and you'd come to Cambridge in March, April 2025. So I think what we'll do now is that brings us to the end of the main presentation. We'll move on to the Q&A. I can see we've got a number of questions that have come in already, but before we move on to those questions, perhaps the panel, you'd like to put your cameras back on. And a couple of questions that come in. First question is, how much interaction will I get with other students on the course outside of residential teaching? I'm going to start by asking Hannah if you could possibly just tell us a little bit about, outside of the times that you were in Cambridge, how did you interact with other students? Did you do that through the BLE? Did you have your own WhatsApp group? How did that work?
So mainly there might be two things. So first, you can use the module, like the, what do you call it? I already forgot about the platform that you use.
The virtual learning environment.
Yeah, virtual learning program. So there is this platform where you can discuss what you want to share with your cohort members. So that might be the formal way where you can interact with your cohorts. And the second might be the informal way. So in my case, I made this WhatsApp chat where we weekly meet. We call it book club. So we read some articles that we choose, and then we talk about the topic, reflecting on their own working context. So for example, when we choose like syntax at first, then somebody would be a teacher who teaches that, then they can contribute the discussion by talking about their own teacher's perspective. But at some point, someone who is working as a publisher, then he may contribute some other point of view as well. So that might be another way where you can interact with other cohorts. So it would be really important for you to be active in learning and self-reflective journey of learning. Yep.
Thank you very much. That's fantastic. The next question, I think, might be one for Bridget and Amy. So the question is, can you say a little bit more about the residential teaching? Who will be actually teaching us, and what's the kind of typical format of those sessions? Who would like to go first?
Shall I go first?
That would be lovely.
So, well, Amy already mentioned the breadth of background of the colleagues that she works with, and of course, within linguistics and also within the other departments that are collaborating on this MSc, we have further specializations. So the people who will be teaching you are quite a big team, where it ranges indeed from engineers, speech engineers, to syntacticians within linguistics, to the various colleagues in assessment who are the assessment specialists. So yeah, a big team of people. I haven't counted them. Jonathan, maybe you know how many there are, but they're all people who are really specialized in their own areas. So I said earlier, I'm Professor of Phonetics and Philology. I will be introducing students to what the field of phonetics and phonology is all about. And then sometimes also teach the listening and speaking modules that fall in the second week. So we all contribute in our own ways, and depending on what our specializations are.
Thank you. Amy, I just wondered if you could say a little bit about, and maybe there isn't a typical session, but you know, what might it look and feel like for a student when they're in a session down at the CUPNA building?
Sure. Well, the lectures themselves are 2 hours, and we try to make them not just a pure lecture style. We try to make it quite interactive, with discussion activities throughout, because I think, as Calvert mentioned, students should really be learning from one another. So we find that it's a really useful format for students to. Of course, there will be some taking in of information. There's a lot of information to cover, but we like to allow a lot of opportunities for discussion and critical analysis, so that discussion between students is very crucial. So just to sort of follow up on a session that I teach, for example, is also about listening, but it's around creating listening assessments, and those sessions in module 6 tend to be quite practical as well. So there might be a range of opportunities to sort of start thinking about developing one's own assessments, or how they might modify materials to use them in their own context, for example.
Thank you, Amy. Question that's come into the chat, sorry, the Q&A. Is the annual March-April fortnight, in other words, the residential, the only in-person requirement for the course? And outside of that fortnight, if someone happens to be in or around Cambridge, can they get access to the library, for example? So yes, the 2-week residential is the only in-person element that's required. Just to clarify, as well as the sessions that you will be attending during the day, there might be evening activities that the cohort arranges, social activities. In the first residential, you would have your matriculation dinner at your college, where you kind of formally become a member of your college. So there are other events going on during those 2 weeks. You're free to do whatever you wish at the weekend in between the 2 weeks. Outside of that, there's no requirement to be in Cambridge. If you happen to be visiting the UK, or you were nearby, you're very welcome to use, for example, your college facilities and the university library, providing it's open. You'd be able to use that as well. Just to clarify, though, just to stress, it is a part-time course. So if you're coming from overseas, you might well find that you've got limitations on the amount of time that you can actually be based in the UK. Question about age. Is there a typical age of the students? Am I too young? Am I too old? If I just think about the first 2 cohorts, I think we could probably say, well, first of all, no, there is no limit. We welcome applications from anybody. I think we wouldn't have had anyone younger than early to mid-20s, because you ideally would have completed a first undergraduate degree or an equivalent and we do ask for a year's relevant work experience in sort of related industry. Having said that, we have had students who are at the opposite end of their careers, may bring a lot of life experience. So there's no typical age, everything from early to mid-20s up until we've had people, you know, at the, as I said, at the opposite end of their careers. So we welcome applications from everywhere. Question about what students have gone on to do and has it had an impact on employability? We've only just had the first cohort complete, so we don't currently have statistics on what students have gone on to do. Hanger, I'm not sure whether perhaps you might not have changed your job, but are you able to reflect at all on how this master's maybe has informed what you do in your job?
So personally, I actually got accepted to UCL for my PhD studies, but I'm still looking for some funding opportunities. So yeah, it's like an early stage because our official transcript is not available yet. So yeah, that's one thing that you can do if you want to pursue your study for PhD studies, then you can do it. Also, from one of my cohorts, he said that he got raise in his salary. So that's another good thing as well. And then practically, you can use your practical skill that you learned in your working context. So, for example, I work as a lead marker and an item writer. So I use those kind of practical skills in my own context as well. So yeah, there are a lot of good things that you can use from this course.
Thank you. And I think that hopefully also begins to answer the question about return on investment of this particular MST. I mean, I think it really does depend on what each individual is looking for. But I would say that the vast majority of people who have taken the course with us or are currently taking the course with us, they're you know, busy working professionals, often directly involved in English language teaching or assessment, and so they will be using this course as a springboard perhaps for moving on in their career. A question about prior study. Will I be at a disadvantage if I have not previously studied with ICE? And how many students had previously studied with ICE? I would say the vast majority had not previously studied with ICE, and you would not be at a disadvantage whatsoever. We look at each application on its individual merit. So if you have studied with us before, that's fantastic. We're looking more for you know, people who are can demonstrate in their application why they are particularly interested in this subject, why they're looking for part-time study, and how they're looking to combine that with a busy job. So I'm just looking through to see if we have any final questions before we wrap up. Mark, have you seen anything else that's come in? I'm just trying to see if we do have anything else. Question about bursaries and scholarships, which I can see have been answered. That no, unfortunately, we don't currently have bursary or scholarships. So unless there are any further questions,
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
What has been the return on your investment in the MST program?
I think we've just basically, thanks for that. I think we have just basically managed to answer that one in Hanger's previous response, that yes, it can certainly help in your career. Hanger's living proof that you can also go on to do a PhD, which is a fantastic outcome.
Brilliant, thank you.
So in which case, it just remains to thank everybody for joining us on this session. We hope that you found today's session informative and that you might consider making an application. We would love to hear your thoughts via our satisfaction survey, which will be emailed to you shortly, and hope to see you at other events. A recording of the session, as I said earlier, will be made available. We'll be posting it onto our website and everyone who signed up for the session today will receive an email with a link to it. So thank you very much again for joining this virtual open day. Wherever you are based in the world, have a great day, and thank you very much.